pretend to know a whole lot about politics or the economy or race relations. Things that I offer, or opinions that I offer on those subjects, are just that, opinions. Um, and that's what vlogging is all about, is offering an opinion. I can say, though, that there is one area that I know quite a bit more about than all those other aforementioned subjects, and that's the taxi cab industry. I've been at this for the last 27 and a half years, and I have seen so many changes in this industry over this time period, um, and it's easy to understand how this industry has really gone to hell, to be honest with you. Um, I monitor the way what things are going on in Las Vegas, and how with the even with the failing tourism economy, how the cab companies out there are just hiring more and more drivers, to keep putting over 2,500 or better cabs out on the road each and every day in a city that has a population about the size of Des Moines, Iowa. Um, and it's obvious in that town that the drivers are they're having drivers out there are having a worse time of it now than when I drove out there, and it was back in 2003 when I left Las Vegas, and it wasn't very good back then. 3 years removed from 9/11, and to everything that I read these days, it hasn't gotten any better out there. And like I said, possibly a whole lot worse. The problem is in the Vegas industry, and in a lot of other or a lot of other markets, is that greed reigns supreme out there, and it's not just on the part of the cab companies. In Vegas again, they were continuously lobbying for more cabs, because everybody wanted to have their share of the market, and a lot of that market had to do with advertising, and there were smaller companies that were just trying to get bigger. Well, every time that they got more cabs, well, then the bigger cabs lobbied to get their share, and it was a big avalanche, and the ones that were buried in that avalanche were the drivers. But we had, but it wasn't all their fault. The industry out there also had a lot of drivers who, instead of focusing on taking care of passengers and the tourists, and taking them from one point to another, and maybe getting 20 or 25 or 30 rides on the sheet, and that's how a driver made it out in Las Vegas back in the day. And even I remember it was somewhat like that when I first started out there in late 1998. The idea was to get as many rides as you could. As long as the wheels were turning, you were making money. Obviously, if you're a good driver, you can usually, do well in tips. And of course, the more rides you put in, the better. Well, unfortunately, it got to the point where you had drivers that weren't focusing on taking people from point A to point B. Rather, They were more interested in scamming to try to get, I guess you could say, choice runs. And the choice run in Las Vegas wasn't a run up to the Chicken Ranch or one of those places that was off in the mountains. That wasn't bad, but a driver could make a whole lot more if he could get a carload of guys going to one of the local strip clubs. And those clubs, depending on the club, were paying anywhere from $20 to $50 a head for cab drivers bringing people to their particular establishments. And drivers became less and less interested about taking, the Griswold family from Circus down to the Excalibur, and more interested in hanging out and doing things like cruising the street that ran between the Strip and the one of the bigger strip clubs in town, just offering patrons free ride. This club was paying $20 a head. They're walking from one of the hotels, such as the Frontier, or from Circus, or one of those, and walking to this particular club, and the drivers would offer them a free ride. Well, that's to get him to the front door. Now all of a sudden you got a party of four. He's got $80 in his hand, and the thing was, it became popular, or the word spread. Hey, if you can, cab drivers were, this was the big game, and this is how they made money. Well, they told two friends, and so on and so on, and before you know it, you've got a flood of drivers, that are looking to drive cab. I mean, as many cabs as there are on the street in Las Vegas, there are still many, many more drivers out there that are willing to do it. And it got to the point out there, and to this day. Now, like I haven't been out in Vegas for several years, but I read up, I see what goes on their message boards out there, and it's getting to the point where drivers out there can't make minimum wage. And forget the poor slobs that are trying to make a living working during the day, where those runs aren't prevalent. They're lucky if they can catch 20 runs a day and work a 12-hour day, and and maybe make $60 or $70 for their pocket. It's a sad situation out there in Las Vegas. I've discovered that actually two of the cities that I've driven in here before, coming back to the Twin Cities, Corpus Christi, Texas, and Little Rock, Arkansas, I was putting more money in my pocket in those towns than I was when I left Vegas. It's amazing. Sometimes it's funny, these little, I call them virgin territories, that haven't caught on with the mainstream flow of immigrants who think that cab driving is a quick way to make or to pursue their American dream. And meanwhile, we have to put up, the taxi riding public has to put up with their version of Sharia law, by them not taking particular types of runs, taking people with guide dogs, taking people with liquor. Forget about dispatching one of these guys to a bar. He won't go in the bar to pick up the passenger. This industry, not only in Vegas but nationwide, is going to hell in a handbasket, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. But I'm the sucker that still stays with it. Hey, I gotta go. I'm running out of time. This is John Shannon, the Redneck